Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Welcome to today's session, and I'm super excited to be here to have this very important discussion where we're talking about the real reasons why you feel triggered, right? It's not about your child. It's not really about your child. But there's this huge misconception that when parents react in a certain way, when parents react, not respond, it's very easy to blame it on the children. We absorb ourselves and the blame is left to go to the children. And so it is important that we understand that this really and truly lies in our hands as parents. It's not about the child, it's us parents that will decide how we wish to react or respond to our children's attitude or their behavior and all of that. So, as parents, we find ourselves, in situations where it's like the behavior of the children is pushing us to the edge. It's like they're stepping on all your triggers and your emotions are all over the place, and you're wondering what is the next best thing I can do, right? And the truth is, when this happens repeatedly, especially when these tantrums happen in public places or you're giving instructions that the children already know how to do or carry out. And then there's this defiant behavior. It's like you're talking to yourself and all of that. There's this misconception that is so common, and we say that, oh, it's because of the child, it's because the child didn't listen, that's why I hit him, or that's why I shouted at him. That is what I am addressing today. That is not always the case. In fact, that is not the case, because by saying that, you are actually, kind of giving power to the children. You're telling us that they are the ones that determine how you behave. You're telling us that they are the ones that determine your emotional response. And if we relate with our children based on our emotional response, I mean, we cannot connect effectively. If your mood is what will determine how you interact with your child on a daily basis, then there's going to be a lot of friction, because, of course, there will be times where you're not in a good mood. And if that is what you're holding on to, right, especially when the child now triggers you and you're like, oh, this child drove me to the edge and I just had to shout, it means that there's going to be a lot of friction in the relationship, right? So this is more like a call for self-awareness, a call for self-reflection and emotional right? When it's because of the children we're acting this way, we are shifting the focus from controlling our children's behavior to managing our own reactions, right? I'll say that again. We are shifting the focus from when we shift the focus from our children's behavior, right? We will be better equipped or enabled to manage our reactions when we shift the focus from our children's behavior, from trying to control their behavior. We will be able to stay more regulated, such that we are able to react properly. Let me give you a typical example. Let's say a child, spills water, or a child does something that really gets you offended. If you do not separate the child from that behavior, if you don't shift your focus from the fact that this is what this child has done that is wrong, you are not going to react in a proper way. You would probably escalate the issue because you are still focused on that behavior. But the moment you are able to, shift from that position, you place yourself in a place where you are better equipped to handle the situation, more effectively. So, what are triggers? If we're talking about the fact that children make us feel triggered, we also need to understand what triggers are. What are triggers? Now, triggers are emotional reactions that are rooted in our own past experiences. And these experiences could be our fears, it could be trauma, it could be, needs that were not met, because trauma happens as a result of what happened to you and what did not happen to you. So it's not about, oh, you had a very tough childhood, or you had to witness lots of disempowering situations. That's not only how trauma comes. Trauma also comes when you did not have access to certain things, right? For example, when you didn't receive enough care, or you didn't have the emotional presence of your parent, trauma can come from those things as well. So your triggers are emotional reactions that are rooted in your past experiences, whether trauma, whether unmet needs, whether, just significant emotional experiences that marked you, most times negatively, right? This is where our triggers come from most times when it comes to emotional, triggers, right? Now, these triggers, they just don't leave us that way. They cause you to react in ways that sometimes could be out of proportion, right? When you get triggered, sometimes you end up reacting in a way you really don't want to react. And that is why it is important that we understand this. Because when you know that once you are triggered, your reaction can get escalated, it will prime you and put you in a better position to understand that it is not actually because your child is shouting or throwing a trauma episode. You understand that that's not the reason why you are, overreacting. You are overreacting because that trigger is touching something inside of you that has not had a closure, if I can put it that way. So, what are some of the common actions of children or behavior that triggers parents? So, I have some listed here. We have disrespect or back talk. This one really puts parents off. Like, you don't want to see your child disrespecting you or talking back, when you're speaking. And then we have tantrums or emotional outbursts. Parents do not like this one at all. When the child is just, whining and throwing tantrums, you've already attended to the child, his needs are met, but the child just keeps going on and on. This is something that parents do not like. And then disobedience, defiance. Oh my goodness. You're giving them instructions, you're asking them to do things, and they blatantly refuse to do so. Like they intentionally choose to be disobedient. This one does not sit well with parents at all. And then another one is public embarrassment. Oh my goodness. Nobody likes this one. Like you are outside with your child and then they just begin to act up. Like they begin to react in a way that you cannot even fathom. They throw themselves on the ground, they are yelling and screaming, and you're like, what am I going to do? Right? And then you have children repeating undesirable behaviors, the same things that you have asked them not to do. They keep repeating those things. Trust me, or you even know what I'm talking about. Those things really trigger parents, and parents, they're just wondering, I mean, how can I attend to this child in a way that they are able to just remember the simple instructions I give them? Just remember to not behave in this way, right? Now, these are some of the common parenting, common behaviors that children exhibit that parents do not like, or that gets parents triggered, and the parents end up saying, "Oh, it's because of the child. I did this or that." Now, I want to highlight the role of your emotions in all of these things, because children will be children, right? Children will keep being children until they mature, until structure is in place, until discipline is in place, right? Children will keep exhibiting age appropriate behavior, and there is nothing you can do about it, right? Wanting a wanting a 2-year-old to eat, in a very composed manner, no spillage, nothing. There are some children who may be able to do that, but pressuring your child to do that might be, raising your own expectations too high, right? So when you have a child who is eating and the child makes a mess at that age, it is expected behavior. So what is your role? What is the role of your emotion when children are exhibiting this expected behavior? Are you going to keep shouting and keep hitting them to say, you're not supposed to spill water when you're eating, you're not supposed to make a mess when you are eating? We are dealing with expected behavior. So that's the angle that I'm coming from. Now, your emotional response as a parent is influenced hugely by your past experiences. How you respond or react to your children now is heavily dependent on your past experiences, your significant emotional with your children. So, getting to the position where you are able to understand these things and actually unpack those past experiences is one actually nurture a thriving parent-child relationship. You cannot shy away from it. You can't do past or even as a relating with your. There's a lot of emotional baggage, right? Refers to unresolved problems, not unpacked memories from the December, how you were, which you were experiences, the needs you had that were not met. You always wanted your father to tell you, but your father was probably never there. You wanted your mom to spend time with you. You wanted your mom responding to the challenges you had as a child, but no, it was never on the ground, always blaming you. That was, or that is a need that was not met when you were a child, and it will definitely come back in your relationship with your child now. If we're looking at, we can stop feeling triggered when our children do certain. We need to let go of the emotional baggage that have come as a result of experience has marked us more. Because the truth is, these experiences are that have shaped beliefs about parenting. Don't just came reinventing yourself, where you are taking parenting classes, but learning methods and new skills, empowering way, except you are doing that. The way you are raising your child now has been shaped by beliefs you had as a result of how you. There's no shying away from it. Therapy. It doesn't mean that we are off in the head when we're talking about therapy. Therapy helps you. Therapy helps you come out of that position where you're not able to function optimally because you are that are not empowering. Right? You need, at some point, you need to reinvent, either by when it comes to parenting, or by important. It doesn't mean you are weak. You don't fantastic. Let us normalize trying to win things, influence feeling, right? So how does your affect children? How does these things that affect how you react to your children? Or when your child acts in a particular way, it does something to you. Of course, I know that you not like noise, right? But why is it that when the child does this particular thing, it just gets to you on something to be addressed, right? For raised in a harshly and heavily punished, right? Once you disobey, you are in deep, you are in hot soup because you're going to be severely punished. If that's the kind of household you were raised, it means that as you're raising your child now, if your child becomes defiant, if your child, you know, disobeys you, like intentionally disobeys you, what that is going to trigger a lot of fear in you. It will trigger a lot of things. Child is going to respond to what you went and that is going to make you start becoming afraid of your child's present behavior. It's going to make you start feeling angry. Also, same thing, right? Because you remember, even don't believe it. Yeah, some listening to me right now, they say, no, 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 no. It doesn't affect how I react to my children. I don't remember. It does actually. So when the child those experiences that, and then you begin to react the same way, you even want to punish the child the same way, because that's how your belief about discipline has been shaped. And the thing is, these emotions are unconscious, they are automatic. Before you even say you want to think twice, to say, okay, what am I supposed to do? You realize that you have already reacted. And that's where intentionality comes in. You have already reacted, saying, oh, I'm not going to yell at my children. I'm not to hit them, right? But, and then at night in bed, you are crying. You're like, oh my goodness, I said I wasn't going to hit this child. I said I wasn't going to hear what you're doing. You need help. Let go of those beliefs that have shaped you. You need to let go of those experiences in one way or another. You used to speak and people didn't used to try to make is not needed. We don't need to contribute. You begin to say to child. Do you see the do you see how you were raised relates to how you're raising your child now? If you were not listened to as a child, if there was love, when your child does not listen now, it's right. It's about you need to deal with, say our children trigger us, or it's because of no with your you were when you criticize you are a child, you tells you something, or when your child tries to question what you're doing now, or you tell your child to do something and the child says, mommy, why should I do this? Why am I going to have my bath now? Why should I have my bath now? Why should I do this? You are going to feel frustrated. You will feel angry. Why? Because you were criticized as a child. There were some people growing up that the amount of criticism they had can can negatively affect their self-esteem for the rest of their life. Do you understand? So criticism is not, I'm not talking about, it's not a joke. The way you speak to your children becomes the lens through which they see themselves. So if you're fond of calling your children names, you're fond of saying you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that, you are just so lazy, you just know how to do this, da, 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 and all of that. Those things are shaping the child's view of himself. And those things are going to affect the child if that cycle is not broken. Remember, whatever you're doing to your child now, you are sowing a seed into the lives of your grandchildren, right? So you want to be very intentional as you interact with them. So if you were really criticized as a child, there is every tendency, if you don't reinvent yourself, that you are going to feel triggered when your child begins to ask you questions. When your child begins to say, mommy, why should I go there? You're going to feel frustrated. You will feel angry because it's like history is repeating itself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, I have talked about emotional baggage in all of these things, right? Now, we also need to understand the power of awareness. Being aware is such a beautiful thing. Being mindful is such a beautiful thing because if you are not aware, how do you want to come to terms with certain things? And this is actually your first step towards change. Until you come to terms with the fact that there is a challenge that needs a solution, nothing will be done. It's just like you're trying to correct somebody and you're saying, no, this way you are going is wrong. This is the wrong direction. And the person keeps insisting, and the person is saying, no, this is the right direction. And you know that that's the wrong direction. That person can never, he can't get help until he comes to terms with the fact that if I keep following this direction, I won't get to my destination. So the power of awareness is beautiful. It is very important. You must be, excuse me, you must be able to come to terms with the things that trigger you. Earlier in this video, I highlighted some of the things that children do that really trigger parents as a result of my interaction or interfacing with parents. These are the 5 things that I came up with. You can, that's in the earlier part of this video, right? Now, you need to sit with yourself, have a meeting with yourself, and ask yourself, what are the things that my children are doing that are actually triggering me? Is it when they shout? Is it when they take what does not belong to them? Is it when they don't listen to my instructions? You need to be aware of these issues, right? When you are aware, you give yourself the opportunity to look inwards to say, okay, so what can I do about this? How can I ensure that my child does not keep arguing with me? How can I ensure that my child does not keep making me repeat myself and all of that? Now, one of the first things that you can do, which I recommend for every parent, I'm talking about how you can actually get yourself to that position where you are super aware, where you are mindful, where you are conscious. Because a lot of people are just going about, they're not conscious, they're not aware, they're not mindful. There are situations where a parent is looking at the child, but you don't even know the color of the child's eyes. You are looking, but you are not seeing. That is a lack of self-awareness. Sorry, that's a lack of awareness, right? So how do you, because if you want to move away from the position where you keep saying that, oh, it's your child who is triggering you, then you need to be aware of certain things. Now, how do you create this awareness that can help you understand that it's about you, not about the child. You need to learn to journal. Journaling is so important. You need to keep a journal. Now, journaling is a very powerful tool that can help you build awareness. You are constantly, putting down your thoughts, your views, after a challenging parenting moment, maybe after your child threw a tantrum, the child did certain things that, oh my God, really left you thinking and wondering what's going on with this, my parenting. You want to take those things down as notes in your journal. Highlight those things. You have to document your experiences. I'm not saying you should keep record of wrongs and all of that, but the power to document your experiences is huge, right? Because your experiences cannot be wasted. You cannot waste your experiences. Your experiences are meant to build you to last. Your experiences form your story, and your story is definitely going to be a blessing to another person. Your story, which you can now put together in any format, whether it's in a book, in a course, or whatever impact project you want to get on, your story is such a powerful tool of transformation that can help a lot of people. So, apart from the fact that journaling can keep you aware in your parenting journey, you also don't want to lose sight of those experiences that you can always go back to, to encourage other people. This is so important. After a challenging parenting moment, write it down. Oh, my child did this and all of that. What led to this action? Was the child hungry? Was the child cold? Or did I speak to the child in a way that wasn't really respectful, right? And then you ensure that you highlight the patterns. This would even help you to identify how your child, acts that make you get on the edge, right? This is so important. If you notice that you feel triggered whenever your child challenges your authority, write it down. And then after writing it down, you want to reflect. You want to reflect maybe at the end of the day or maybe at the end of the week. You go through the journal and then you reflect. You would be able to draw patterns. You would see patterns. You'll be able to identify areas where you can actually, tweak such that you can even give yourself better results before you even say you want to go and see a professional and all of that. You ask yourself questions like, okay, my child challenged my authority today. What does this remind me of? Was there any experience, maybe from my job or my business with a customer or a client or something? Was there any experience I had previously with someone that was really bad, that made me feel really bad when my child did this thing, right? These are some of the questions that can come up when you are reflecting on what you have put in your journal, right? And then you also want to ask yourself, this way that I've reacted to my child, is it coming from a place of something that happened in my past? Did it remind me of how my father used to speak to me? Did it remind me of how my younger sibling used to speak to me? Did it remind me of how, they would lock me out of the house if I stayed out late? Did it remind me of how my mother would, maybe shout at me or call me names when I did something wrong? You want to ask yourself those questions. Parenting is not a walk in the park, but at the same time, if you have the right strategies in place, parenting can actually be an enjoyable and a joyful experience. But what I've noticed is that people always they look out for the huge tasks. What are the huge and mighty strategies that can help me win parenting? No, the little intentionality that you practice, the little intentional steps you take, like pausing before speaking, those are the things that we're talking about. It's not about one strong strategy or plenty strategies put together and all of that. How do you even want to work with those strategies when the little ones, have not been implemented? So stay mindful, stay aware of your reality. Journal a lot. Have a journal that is dedicated to your parenting journey. You realize that it is something that you can even gift someone. It is something that you can even give your daughter. It is something you can give to a friend. Oh, this was my journey, or this used to be my journey when I started out, when I used to shout and shout at my children. This is my experience in this book. Take it and use it. That's what I'm talking about. Don't waste your experience, right? You need to be aware. And one of the ways you can be aware is by journaling. And then another way you can also build that awareness, right, is to stay mindful. Be aware of your environment, your thoughts. Be aware of your actions, your reactions, your responses, and all of that. That's why we have some parents who can be with their children at home for 24 hours, yet they don't even know what's happening in the child's life. It's not about being present. You have to be mindfully present. You have to be consciously present. You have to be presently present, right? I mentioned this earlier. There are people you can stand in front of me. I might be looking at you, but I'm not seeing you. It happens a lot for some parents. They are seeing their children, but they are looking at their children, but they are not seeing them. Children are carrying a lot of emotional baggages on their shoulder. Their parents are not aware, right? But when you stay mindful, you are able to take in your environment. You are able to take in what is going on around you. You are able to savor your reality. You are able to take note of your triggering you. You are able to understand the things that are really, making you feel unhappy, right? So before you run off to blame, always making me shout. No, you need to come to terms feelings with your reality. The best way to oh, child is doing, and this is need to work the root cause that challenge, one of this, and then change the reaction, right? You can use it to begin to change the reactions that you're, because once you know that, well, this is how I, you begin to say, okay, since I don't want this to happen this way, right? Position myself, or what can I do to ensure that even when the child reacts this way, I do not respond this way? Or when the child acts this way, how do I giving it back to the child as he's giving it to me? This is very important. Now, when you begin to build awareness, you responding instead of reacting. Let me tell you the difference between a need, or from an emotional place, right? But when the first thing that comes to your mind that you on the floor, the next thing is a death. That is reality that comes to mind when these behaviors comes from a place of empathy. You are able to sit for a few seconds what has done and say, I will not, I know better. Responding and reacting, or once you are able to build, tips. Now, let me Power of pausing. What pausing will do in your parenting journey, you can't even estimate it, right? Learn to pause. Children will be children. They will do certain things. If you keep, I said something earlier, if your mood is what determines how you react to your children, there's going to be a lot of friction in your relationship, right? So you want to get to the position where you are able to pause such that you're not running off to say, hey, you did this, take this, you did that, take this. No, pause, take in what has happened. Even if for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, the way you're going to respond will be different from if you just go immediately into the situation to say, oh, this is what I'm going to do, right? So when you get triggered, or when the child's behavior steps on something that you have not healed from, you want to take a minute to, ask yourself, how am I supposed to respond to this? This is where intentionality comes in. Don't say, oh, we have, no, no, no. Is this thing really true? So when my child does something or misbehaves, I will now sit down and be asking myself questions. Does this thing really work? Who has time for all of those things? You are the one that wants to nurture a thriving relationship with your child. Some of the things our parents did to us still linger in our memory. Even if they don't linger, the impact is still being felt. So that should put you in a position where you want to be extra cautious when you are, interacting with your child. We cannot say, oh, who has time to now be pausing and be doing all of those things? You have to do it. You have to do it if you really want to see that change in your relationship with your child. So when you feel triggered and all of that, you see that your child is hitting the table and the noise is really getting to you. And the next thing you want to do is not going to be nice. Walk away, taking deep breaths, 3 to 5 seconds, regulate yourself, and go on to do what you want to do. Empowering stuff, right? Not going there to hit the child or something. Let me give you this example or this scenario that I always talk about all the time. If you are in this particular situation where the child is doing something, or your child is doing something that is really irritating you, and they say, whenever this child does this thing, if you react nicely, if you respond, we are going to give you these thousands of dollars. We are going to elevate your status. You're going to be among the 1% of the 1% of the society, and all of that. So many perks. Trust me, you are going to learn patience. Like automatically, patience would come. Automatically, you will learn to respond without reacting. Why? Because of those beautiful perks attached to that instruction. So when those perks are not there, why are we not able to react in that manner? When those perks are not there, when no one is watching, why do we now say, no, I couldn't control myself, that was why I hit him? But if they put a huge price to it, you will control yourself. That's what I'm talking about. So power actually lies in our hands. The power is not in the hands of the children that will now say, oh, they triggered me, that's why I keep doing this and doing. No, the power lies in your hand, and you determine what you're going to do with it. And then the next thing you want to do when children are acting in ways that are really, getting you feeling upset, you want to identify the emotion. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling frustrated? Or am I feeling angry? Or am I feeling like I don't have authority over this child? If you are not able to name that emotion, you can't control it, right? You won't know which strategy to apply at that moment. Name the emotion. Oh, I'm starting to feel angry with what this child is doing. I'm starting to feel frustrated with the fact that this child is not listening to me. And once you are able to name it, you become more empowered to say, okay, so I know that I'm getting frustrated right now. What should I do? Sandra, what should I do? Do you get? You are putting yourself in a position where you can help yourself, instead of making the child a dumping ground where you just go dump any form of emotion, whether empowering or disempowering, all in the name that oh, my child is triggering me or driving me nuts, right? So you can actually learn to identify the emotion. And then you want to challenge the thought. Challenge that thought. Where is this thing coming from? This response or this reaction that I'm giving to my child, is this appropriate for what is happening right now? The child has offended you, the child has done something you don't like, and you are meting severe punishment on the child. You want to ask you want to challenge that thought or that feeling. This thing I want to do to this child now, is it the appropriate thing to do? Is it going to leave my child positively marked or negatively marked? This is a very important step in this process. And then, after challenging your thoughts, choose your response. So, this child is getting me frustrated. And I can see that if I react this way, it won't be for the better, it won't be for the good of the child. Okay, now choose your response. So, what should I do? That's it. So what should I do? So you see that pausing for a little while. Don't say no. He just poured water everywhere. How can I pause? Where's the time? I need to treat that situation immediately. No, if you keep treating the situation immediately, that's why you are having the results you are having. That's why you're taking parenting classes and it's like it's not working. It has to start from the foundation. First things first, right? When you are able to go through this process, you'll be able to choose a response that is empowering. And then that response is one that aligns with the values that you have as a family. Because as a family, you have to talk about how you carry out discipline. Don't now say on one hand that, oh, we're going to discipline nicely, we're going to discipline in a positive and empowering way, right? But when the child now does something, you forget all of that, and then you at night on your bed you start crying. Oh God, I said I wasn't going to beat this child today. When you are able to pause, when you are able to identify the exact emotion you're feeling at that moment, when you are able to challenge your thought, you will be able to choose a better response, such that whatever you're going back to your child with as feedback for that behavior is actually empowering the child, even if it is discipline. You can discipline your child. Discipline is actually empowering. So all these things I'm saying, I'm not saying your feedback has to be nice, soft, and all of that. You let the child get away with, misbehavior. No, you will address misbehavior, but in an empowering way, right? This is so important. Once you are aware of your triggers, once you are aware of the emotions that are behind these triggers, you are empowering yourself to break free from old patterns. You are empowering yourself to break free from those parenting styles that will not give you the results you want. And that way, you are creating a new narrative. You are creating a healthier way of raising your children and responding to their behavior. This is very important. Now, another thing that I want to talk about that can help you to stop feeling that your child is actually after you. No child was born to frustrate you. Some parents say, oh, this child is just frustrated. No, no child has the what's it called? The behavior you see a child manifest is actually a response to something. It is actually a response to the kind of programming that the child has received. But another thing that puts you in a better position to respond properly, even when your child does stuff that is not nice, is to shift the focus. You have to move from control to connection. Remember, one of the things that I'm highlighting in this session is how you can still nurture connection even when you feel like, oh, this child is frustrating me, right? You have to move from control to connection. You have to separate your child from the behavior. Stop trying to control your child's behavior. You can't control them. If you keep controlling them, you can't influence them. How do you feel when you are being controlled at work or when you are being controlled? We can have a mutual relationship where everybody understands their boundaries and all of that. But nobody likes to be controlled. right? No one likes to be controlled. You can say, oh, you're controlled by the Holy Spirit. That's a different thing entirely. But when we're talking about human relationship, nobody likes to be controlled. So you need to learn to understand expected behavior, understand what children in that phase can do, what they are capable of doing, or what they will do, right? And then prepare yourself with the understanding that, okay, this is expected, or the child is just expressing an unmet need. Maybe the child is hungry and all of that. If you are able to get aware of this, you put yourself in a better position to connect with your child. Remember, any form, any form of discipline that is not getting you connected to your child is not, that strategy is not really tight. Do you understand? Because you don't want to say you are disciplining your child and the child is being pushed away, right? So you want to also move from that position where you are always, everything, almost everything the child hears from you is instructions. Leave that place, don't do this, don't do that, and all of that, and all of that. Most times that is why they resist. That is why they don't follow instructions, because you are just hurling instructions at them all the time, right? This is so important. You have to shift the focus by moving from controlling them to connecting with them. And then you want to practice empathy. You have to begin to put yourself in your child's shoes. Remember, you were once a child. I was once a child. And when you begin to remember that some of the things your children are doing now are some of the things that you also did, it will help you help your child better, right? Once again, I'm not excusing misbehavior, but understanding that at a certain phase in your child's life, they are going to be feeling like, oh, they want to be in control to that adolescent phase. They want to be in control. For children who are around the ages of 2 to like 3, 4, 5, they are becoming self-aware at that point, and they want to begin to, get into power struggles with you. You tell them to do something, they say no. Tell them to come and eat, they say no, because they are becoming self-aware, and they also want to control. Why are you telling me to eat? Telling me what to do? So they know. They also, not because they necessarily want to disobey you, right? So practicing empathy would really help you respond to your child better. Pause and ask yourself, or pause and put yourself in the child's shoes, right? This child that is acting this way, this child that has been throwing a tantrum since morning, how is the child feeling? Does the child need anything? This child that doesn't want to go to school is always complaining about not wanting to go to school, right? Is it possible that someone is bullying this child? Is it possible that the child does not really like his teacher, right? This is you practicing empathy. This is you putting yourself in your child's shoes to understand why he may be feeling that way or why she may be reacting that way. This is very important, right? So you want to ensure that you are shifting your focus so that you are still able to connect with your child in all of this. Now, let me give you some examples that you know might that can actually help you when it comes to, that can give you like a picture of what I'm talking about. So you want to practice empathy um, when a child is resisting compliance during homework time. So the child, is time for homework, and you have asked them multiple times to go and do their homework. They are not listening, and you are beginning to feel frustrated. You are wondering, you're wondering what's going on with this child. How is this child going to pass his exams? How will he pass his test? How will the child's academic progress be? And you feel angry, you feel frustrated, you feel disrespected. For an example like this, or for a situation like this, what you want to do is to first pause, right? Because if you don't regain control over your emotions, you will react in a way that you will not like at the end of the day. So you want to regain control over your emotions by pausing for a moment, right? And then check your emotions. How are you feeling? right? Are you feeling frustrated? You are worried about their grades, that, oh, they won't do well if they continue like this and all of that. Okay, so I've identified that. That is how you're feeling. Okay, so how do you now respond with empathy? How do you respond with empathy to a child who doesn't want to do the homework? Approach the child, talk to the child and say, oh, I see that you're having a hard time, doing your homework, or I see that you really do not want to do your homework at this point. Is there something bothering you? Or is there something distracting you? Or is there something you feel like doing now that is not making you want to focus on your homework? Right? When you do that, you are bringing your child to your team, to your side, or you are transferring yourself to your child's team. Because no true win occurs when you and your child are not on the same page. You cannot say, I'm the mom, I'm the dad, you have to do what I say, you have to do as I do, and the child is in another direction. How do you want to win in that situation? Is it you against your child or you with your child? It's supposed to be you with your child. You are not two different parties, you are a team, a unified team. So you want to truly ask your child, why are you feeling this way? I see that you're having a hard time doing this thing. When you bring your child to your team or you move over to the child's team, the child can see that you are here to help. And the child will feel encouraged to open up to say, oh, mom, I'm tired, or I don't like doing my homework, or whatever kind of response they want to give you. Then, when they tell you what the reason is, you can now solve the problem together. You can now say, okay, so I see that after 3 p.m., you really don't like to do your homework based on what you've been telling me on 3 different occasions. Okay, so let's come up with another strategy that can help you do your homework better. Okay, let's figure out a way out. Do you get? Doing this shows your child that you are validating their emotions or their feelings, even though why would their homework, right? But this place of empathy, they will come and then begin to right. You are practically think should allow me play first, then I'll come back to my homework, or the decision that will be made, you can take your own opinion, add it to yours, and come up with something that works for everyone, right? And you remember an example of how you show empathy in homework, and then you school, we should give you 2 hours to sleep. Your homework. Better, right? Once you go through this process, you implement this process for most child, give your parenting journey. I like that is frazzled. You have the power in realize that you are the one in control, because most parents allow their children to drag them into a power struggle. The child is saying yes, you are saying no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. So who is the adult? Who is the parent? Who is the so you can take that power by positioning yourself in a proper way, such that you are not just reacting anything that comes up, but you are in a calculated manner, responding like you, in fact, if you practice what I'm saying, you feel in control. You know that you call the shot. Do you understand? Not your child parenting you or your child leading you. Do you understand? This is very important. So, yeah, this is, you know, you know, this that you're brainstorm solutions to solve that problem or that expectations based on and this is very important. So I would have loved another scenario YouTube on my social media. You might want to look out for it, but there is another scenario of when your child talks to you disrespectfully that I would have loved to share, but because I don't want 60 minutes for this session. All right, so this is so important. So basically, I have talked about you becoming your emotions. That's to getting your power back. Be aware of your don't know these are the things that happened when I was a child and all of that. I closed that chapter. I'm not saying you can't close that chapter, but be hacked that happened. Be sure you have unpacked them. Be sure that you are reinventing yourself so that those beliefs that were shaped, because your beliefs are shaped by how you were raised, the environment in which you were raised, and your significant emotional experiences. So you want to be sure that you have unpacked those things and brought down those disempowering beliefs so that you are not reliving the same experiences with your children. So I want you to understand that it is not your child that is triggering you. Your child can do something that you don't like, but you are truly being triggered by your own reaction. Because at me now, if you throw something at me, I can decide, or okay, no, let me do it this way. Throw insults at me, I decide the way I have to respond to that. I can decide to say, I'm going to give it back to you. I will insult you. I'll pay you back in your own coin. Right? But at the same time, I can always say, you know what? I'm not here to exchange words. It's okay if that's what you think about me. That is not who I am. I really don't owe you an explanation. It's fine. I move on because I don't have that time to get into an exchange of words. Do you understand? Now, you something to me, but I had two options on how to respond to you. Either I respond or I react. So you are the one in charge. Let's stop saying, is the child that made me to slap him? Is the child? No. Whatever behavior your child puts out, the final answer lies in your hand. Am I going to respond or will I react? And you can get to that point where you are able to respond from a place of having your emotions in control when you are aware, when you are mindful, when you have been able to deal with some of those disempowering things that happen to you or some of those beliefs and all of that. You just put yourself in a position where you're able to respond better. So it's not about the children. You need to begin to shift from that position where we say it's the child, it's the child. You have the power of meaning. For example, if somebody comes and says, oh, okay, my phone is not useless actually. It's just that the battery is low, or it's just that the screen broke, but it doesn't make my phone useless. But some people will say, this phone is really useless. So this phone, in fact, I think this phone is really useless. No wonder the picture quality is not nice. So you can give any meaning you like. If he says you are useless, that's the person's opinion. Maybe the person doesn't know how to maximize the potential you have. If somebody is saying, "Oh, this phone, the memory is not large," like seriously, maybe you are the one that does not know how to maximize the memory of that phone. So for you to get your power back as a parent, you need to understand the power of meaning. You need to make a decision to say, this is the kind of meaning I'll be giving to situations. If my child does this, oh, even though I feel like lashing out at that child, I choose to give an empowering meaning to that thing so that I can take some time out to get myself in a position where I respond better. I hope you found this helpful. Trust me, if you can follow the process, I want you to go back to that process that I outlined on how to, help a child who doesn't want to do his homework. Outline that process and apply it to different challenges that you might see with your children. And trust me, you're going to get very good results. If you found this helpful or if you have questions, please let's have those questions in the chat. If you have questions, let's get those questions in the chat. And if you have questions, yeah, if you're watching this as a replay, I want you to comment hashtag replay. If you're watching this as a replay, please comment hashtag replay and let me know if you also have questions. You can always leave your questions in the comments. They will be responded to. So thank you so much for joining. My name is Sandra Oluwadare for those who are meeting me for the first time, and I'm the founder of Winning in Parenting, where I'm equipping and empowering parents to raise proud of parents, to enjoy ease in their parenting journey, to create joyful parenting experiences rather than complaining that, oh, this child has been saying me and all of that. So if you need support in your parenting journey, connect with me on my social media handles, or I'm going to be leaving my contact there. Connect with me, join our parenting programs, and I will be happy to support you. Thank you so much for joining. It's bye for now. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when a new video goes live. Thank you so much. It's bye for now.